Hello everybody. In this reading we have 4 options. So we're going to be looking at you and your person of interest, and we're just going to be seeing if either of you is projecting anything onto the other one. If so, what is being projected, and then what is the truth beyond the projection. So what I mean about projections is that, just for an example, say you're someone who's been cheated on a lot. You could project onto your person of interest that they are someone who's not trustworthy simply because you've had that experience before. So that may or may not be actually the case with them. And if it's not, that would be a projection. So that's just an example of how that can work. But we'll see. We'll be looking at both of you. Are you projecting onto them? Are they projecting onto you? And then what is the truth? So that's what we're going to be looking at today. We have 4 options. I'm going to hold them up if you want to see the cards more clearly. These cards are all from this Our Tarot deck, which is a women's history deck. Each card depicts a notable woman in history. And so anyway, I just shuffled the cards and I selected them. They came out as Spirit asked. So the first one here is the Wheel of Fortune, represented by Elizabeth I. Let me hold this up. Timestamps are going to be below, as usual. Make sure it's focused real well for you. Okay, so that's option number 1. Option number 2 is the Page of Cups, Dorothea Dix. All right, number 3 is the 8 of Swords, Georgiana Spencer Cavendish. And option number 4 is the 4 of Swords, Hilma Af Klint. All right. All right, so go ahead and make your selection, guys, and I'll see you at your reading. Okay, welcome to everyone who chose option number 1, the Wheel of Fortune, Elizabeth I. Now, at the end of this reading, if you're interested, I will read for each of these cards. There's like a 2 to 3 page biography of the person on the card. So just if you're interested in that, that will be at the very end of the reading. And maybe there will be something that of note that Spirit wants to call your attention to in her biography, or maybe not. So I'll leave that up to you. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So first we're going to be looking at you and how you perceive them. Are you projecting anything onto your person of interest? So initially we're going to be looking at for just like a yes or no and how strong that yes or no is. If most cards are upright, then yes, you are projecting. If most cards are reversed, then no, you're not really projecting much at all. If they're all reversed, then you're definitely not projecting. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So let's see. The viewer of number 1, are they projecting onto their person of interest? We have Death reversed, 7 of Pentacles reversed, and 9 of Cups reversed. So you're definitely not projecting. So the truth of who this person is, you're seeing it pretty clearly. I mean, there may still be things that you don't know about them. But what you do perceive about them is accurate. So let me just turn these around so that we can see a little bit better. You are perceiving this to be someone who cares a lot about the dynamics of power in relationships. I think that they prefer to be someone probably who has more money than their romantic partner because that gives them a sense of greater power. So they probably prefer to be involved in relationships with people who do not have as much resources or as many connections, and that makes this person happier. It also makes them feel that they have more power to make their romantic partner happy. So if that's something that you're seeing about them, then that is accurate. It is not a projection. Okay. Anything else that we need to know about that? Nope, that's pretty much it. I mean, just, this person is not money hungry. They're not really materialistic, but they do feel more empowered in their relationships when they're the one who kind of has more money than the other person. And yeah, it also makes them feel like they have an advantage over their competitors. Like if they're competing for someone's interest in love, it makes them feel more powerful about like competing. Like if they, for instance, if they feel that there's someone else who is trying to get to you romantically, who's interested in you, they're going to feel better about themselves if they happen to have more money than that person, because that makes them feel that they have the competitive advantage. So in general, this person feels that having money is a source of power and a way to make both themselves and other people happy. Okay, so that's what we get. So you're not projecting, so we don't really have to go more into the truth that you're missing there. But we'll just ask, because you may not be projecting something incorrectly, but is there a truth about this person that you don't currently know that Spirit feels you can now be made aware of? We'll go ahead and ask that. Is there some unknown truth that the viewer of A can know about their person? Okay, yes, they're saying yes. This is a very hardworking person. This person is very interested, again, in establishing themselves, not just with money, although that is very important, because as we already discussed, but it also is about kind of status. I think this person wants to be highly esteemed, and they're willing to put forth the work and effort necessary to achieve that. So we have the Eight of Pentacles, the Emperor. They want to be seen as an emperor type person, meaning someone who has power and status, someone who has the ability to sort of make things happen. We also have the Knight of Swords reversed. I think that this person is capable of obtaining this power and status through underhanded sort of means. Like they're capable of that, and they may have stooped to that level in some times, but they try their best not to now. I feel like with this Knight of Swords reversed, they don't want to get their boots dirty. They don't want to be acquiring this wealth and status through quote-unquote dirty or underhanded means, although they may have done that before, or they definitely are capable of it, but it's definitely also not their preference. They would prefer to achieve this simply through hard work, and I do believe that this is a hardworking person. Okay, so let's see if they're projecting anything on you. Let's just see if they are projecting anything onto you. Is this person projecting anything onto you? Yes, they're definitely projecting onto you very strongly. What do they project? This person feels that you do want them to compete to win your favor. So we talked a little bit about how they conceive of competition before, and that if they have more wealth, they feel like they have an upper hand over their competitor. But this person feels that you want them to outdo other people. Like you like people to fight for you. That's what this person thinks. You want people to fight for you, and the person you will choose as your partner is the one who wins that fight. The one who stands out the most, the one who's more brazen and daring, and maybe even the one, we talked about the fact this person doesn't like to stoop to underhanded behaviors in order to get the upper hand, but they kind of think that that's what you want and expect of them. Okay, so that's their projection. What is the reality then? What's the reality that they're not seeing here? We get Two of Wands, the High Priestess reversed, and the Ten of Pentacles reversed. I think the issue is really not that you want people to compete for you or to fight for you, but with the High Priestess reversed and the Ten of Pentacles reversed, I think genuinely you are not sure what's best for your future. I think you may be trying really hard with this High Priestess card. You might be a strongly intuitive person, and you're trying to utilize your intuition to figure out, who's best for me. I do think with this Two of Wands, there are other people interested. This person who you're watching this about is very aware of that, because I feel like they have their eye on someone in particular. And the person that they think is their competitor for your interest, they think that that person is capable of behaving in underhanded ways in order to get ahead and gain favor with you. And I think that's really disconcerting for them, because they don't want to stoop to that behavior, but they also feel that they're not going to win and get get to be with you or be successful with you if they don't act that way themselves. But they really don't want to, and I don't think that they're going to. But this is how they're viewing it. But the truth is that you just genuinely are not sure who the right person is for you for your future. So that's all that it is. But yeah, they're seeing it incorrectly. Anything else that it would be helpful for you to know? Any other projections or misunderstandings this person has about you? Yes, this person also feels that you yourself are very status oriented with the Nine of Pentacles reversed. They might think that you are, someone who gets involved for people in order to obtain money and status, because you don't want to work for it yourself. And they think that maybe that's why you pit people against each other to sort of like fight for you, because it's a way for you to make yourself look more valuable than the other potential, romantic options that are out there. It's like how you set yourself apart is you try to make people, this is what this person thinks, right? This is their projection. They think that you try to pit people against each other to compete for you as a way to kind of like give yourself more status or make yourself look more valuable, a commodity in the dating scene. Yeah, so this person is definitely not seeing you very clearly. What else? Any other projections that they're having here? So those seem to be the major ones. Either way, despite the fact that this person is projecting all of this onto you, they do see you as value, and they do still want to be the one who wins you. It's like they're pulling up this basket. They feel that there's something very valuable in this basket. They know other people are interested in your value as well. Yeah, but they want to be the one to have you. And I feel like with this King of Swords reverse, this is something that they think about a lot. They think a lot about how they can make this happen, because they feel that it would take a lot to bring you into their life in the way that they want you to be. Yeah, they feel like they would. They also feel like that it would require them to significantly level themselves up in order to be able to pull in a prize like you. So they do view you as a prize. So if any of their projections onto you seem like negative or judgmental, I mean, they do still see you as a prize. It's not keeping them from being interested or anything. I think that a big part of these projections are based in this person's own fear around having to compete for a love interest. So maybe this is like a pattern that they keep finding themselves in, and so it could be just a source of pain for them because of that. So that's what I'm getting for y'all's reading. I hope that it makes sense. gives you better insight into this connection. Any final thoughts from Spirit just about the connection itself? We get the Knight of Swords. Again, this person keeps thinking, maybe I should just stoop to these lower levels. They are very tempted to be underhanded in order to try to win your favor. But I think that they, there's another part of them that thinks they'll be better off if they stay with their integrity and really just try to improve themselves and level up instead of like taking 2 steps backward. They do feel like, despite these projections that they have on you, they feel like leveling up would actually bring you as this valuable, person that you are into their life more so than being underhanded. So anyway, let's see. For those of you who want to stick around for the biographical lesson, we'll go read the section on Elizabeth I. Now, what's interesting is I did a different pick a card on how they view you, and I used these feminist playing card deck, a different deck, but it also had Elizabeth I in it. I also shuffled and just pulled the cards, and she came up as the first option in that reading as well. So I feel like Spirit wants me to read more about her. But let's just share it with everyone and see. Are there any insights here for us? Okay. Let's see, I don't know if y'all can see that or not. If you're watching in high definition, I think you should be able to, as long as it's focused. Okay. When Henry VIII died in 1547, is this the beginning of the section? Oh no, sorry. Gosh, her section is long. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, yeah, hers is longer than the other ones I've looked at. Okay. All right. After marrying his second wife, Anne Boleyn, King Henry VIII of England desperately wanted to have a son to continue the Tudor dynasty. The couple soon gave birth to a child, red-haired and ruddy-cheeked, just like the king, but that's where the similarity ended. Elizabeth I, the only surviving child of Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII, was born into a world of intrigue and borderline chaos. For her mother, Anne, the king's emotional whims were a matter of life and death. After Anne failed to produce a male child, Henry became disenchanted with her. Based on little to no evidence, he became convinced that she had committed numerous crimes against him and had her executed by beheading on May 19th, 1536. 11 days later, King Henry VIII married Jane Seymour, and by the end of the next year, Elizabeth had a half-brother, Edward VI. Seymour died 2 weeks after Edward's birth, though, so he was cared for by a household of women servants. A toddler, Elizabeth was then declared illegitimate, stripped of her title, and sent to live with Edward. She and her baby brother were both raised in their father's Protestant faith. There, at Hatfield Palace in Hertfordshire, she received love and nurturing from her governesses and was educated on many subjects. Despite the misogynistic prejudices of the day about the intellectual abilities of women, Elizabeth had access to the best tutors, who honed her quick and curious mind. By the time she was in her late teens, she was one of the most well-educated young women in all of Europe. When Henry VIII died in 1547, 9-year-old Edward VI became king. Henry's widow, Catherine Parr, took Elizabeth under her wing, bringing her to live with her and her new husband, Thomas Seymour. Instead of protecting Elizabeth, though, they both behaved inappropriately toward her in ways that were tantamount to sexual abuse. Okay? Describing Seymour as a swashbuckling Lothario, Alison Weir states in The Life of Elizabeth I that he indulged in daily romps with the adolescent Elizabeth, tickling and slapping her as she lay in her bed. Her governess, Catherine Ashley, thought this was scandalous. Weir also notes that Catherine Parr dismissed Seymour's behavior as innocent, even joining in on shocking Elizabeth and her governess. However, when Parr became pregnant, apparently Seymour's flirtation with Elizabeth threatened her enough that she sent her stepdaughter away, in order to preserve not only her own marriage, but also the girl's honor. This traumatic experience of being sexually molested and then sent away by her caregivers, compounded by her late father's cruel treatment of her mother, taught teenage Elizabeth how to approach her political and personal relationships. In Sister Subject, Sister Queen, Carol Levin notes, Elizabeth learned very early to keep her own counsel and to hold back her trust. King Edward VI died at age 15 after a brief reign fraught with illness, but before he did, he tried to prevent either of his half-sisters from ascending to the throne by naming their cousin Lady Jane Grey as his heir. His efforts proved futile in a matter of days. The nobles of the Privy Council, the monarch's advisors, switched their allegiance from Jane to Mary. Lady Jane Grey's few supporters were then arrested. In 1533, Mary took the throne with Elizabeth by her side. But soon the sisters were at odds with each other. A devout Catholic, Mary sought to reverse the country's wholesale conversion to Protestantism. Her popularity diminished, and many people supported Elizabeth taking the crown instead. In response to an unsuccessful rebellion in 1554, Mary grew suspicious and resentful of her sister and had her placed under house arrest in the Tower of London until late 1555. In 1558, Mary died. At 25, Elizabeth began her reign. Having observed the ups and downs of her father's, brothers, and sisters' reigns, she understood how to play the game of politics. One early challenge was to deflect the issue of her own lack of marriage and childbearing. She resisted these pressures, crafting a public image of herself as the Virgin Queen. According to a 1984 article in the 16th Century Journal by Larissa J. Taylor Smither, the love for and of her people was Elizabeth's replacement for matrimony. She was exceedingly fond of her childhood friend Robert Dudley, whom she made Earl of Leicester. When his wife died mysteriously in 1560, a rumor circulated that Dudley had killed her so that he could make himself available to Elizabeth. The rumor made Dudley unpopular and an unsuitable choice for the queen. In 1563, her counselors suggested Archduke Charles I of Austria as a possible match, but Elizabeth refused to marry a Catholic. In a 2010 article, Why Elizabeth I Never Married, Retha Warnick puts forth that Elizabeth may have decided that marrying was more politically problematic than staying single. Every queen, regnant, I don't know what that means, in the British Isles who married soon discovered that her husband and his family complicated her life politically, states Warnick. No marriage went unchallenged. Her marriage provided an opportunity for her husband also to conspire against her. Is it any wonder, then, that when faced with counselors who could not come to a consensus about a husband for her, that Elizabeth declined to marry? A year into her reign, Elizabeth reestablished the Church of England, returning the nation to Protestantism officially and assuming her role as the Church's spiritual leader. However, many English people outside of the southeast region were Catholic. These religious divisions inspired support for Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots, who had a claim to the English throne through her grandmother, Henry VIII's sister, in England and abroad in Spain. As a civil war erupted in Scotland, Mary escaped to England, seeking help from her cousin Elizabeth to restore her to the Scottish throne. Elizabeth elected to imprison Mary, placing her under guard so that Scottish rebels could not harm her, nor could she escape. In 1571, an Italian banker named Roberto Ridolfi conspired with Mary's advisor, Bishop John Leslie, and the Spanish ambassador, Guerrero de Espes, to depose Elizabeth. Thomas Howard, 4th Duke of Norfolk, and Mary Stuart agreed to the plan. The Queen's spies caught word of this plot, and Ridolfi's messenger, who carried letters written in code, was captured and tortured until he relinquished the code's cipher. Leslie and Espes were banished from the country, and the Duke of Norfolk was executed. Elizabeth kept Mary imprisoned, as she would not consider ordering the execution of another anointed queen. However, in 1586, English spy Sir Francis Walsingham discovered Mary's direct participation, through coded letters, in a plot to assassinate Elizabeth orchestrated by English nobleman Sir Anthony Babington and Catholic priest John Ballard. Heeding the advice of her council, Elizabeth signed Mary Stuart's death warrant. In 1588, Pope Sixtus V signed a treaty with Spain that decreed King Philip could, upon deposing Elizabeth by force, pick a new Catholic monarch for England. The Queen wanted to resolve the conflict without violence, considering that armed conflict with Spain might very well end in her execution. As Weir notes in The Life of Elizabeth I, Elizabeth rested her hopes on the peace talks, knowing that England was in no position to go to war, having no standing army and only a small navy. England's naval ships were dwarfed by those of the Armada, but they were faster. When diplomacy failed, the naval battle began on July 20th as the Armada approached England's southern coast. The Vice Admiral of the fleet, Sir Francis Drake, discovered that the Spanish gunners could not easily reload their ships' cannons because of poor design. He led the English fleet in skirmishes with the Armada, provoking cannon fire from their ships from a distance, and then closed in quickly to fire on the enemy. In the earliest hours of July 28, the English packed 8 of their ships with gunpowder, tar, and timber. After setting the ships on fire, they were cast downwind, where they created chaos among the Armada and scattered their ships. England's navy closed in and secured a stunning victory. On the final day of battle, Elizabeth rode into the encampment at Tilbury. Dressed in armor, she delivered the most famous speech of her reign. "I am come amongst you," she professed, "not for my recreation and disport, but being resolved in the midst and heat of the battle to live and die amongst you all." In the final years of her reign, England was challenged by economic troubles that caused the once widespread support of her subjects to falter. Portraits of the Queen became more propaganda than documentation, as they featured an idealized, still youthful Elizabeth as a way to proclaim her vitality. A few years before her death, Marcus Gerards the Younger painted one such portrait. Elizabeth appears in a gown of orange silk with a small repeating pattern of open eyes and ears, conveying that the Queen was observing and listening to all. Elizabeth I never named a successor publicly, but around 1600, her senior advisor, Robert Cecil, began to correspond discreetly with James VI of Scotland, the son of Mary Stuart, at the Queen's command. While she never broached the subject with James directly, she implied in these confidential letters that her throne would pass to him, which was ironic because it was Elizabeth who signed the death warrant of his mother, Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots. Elizabeth died on March the 24th, 1603, after ruling for 45 years. Queen Elizabeth I dealt with the inevitable shifts, losses, celebrations, threats, and successes that come with a long and powerful life. The Wheel of Fortune indicates that change is unavoidable. Right now, fate is at work in your life in a particularly noticeable way. This card's appearance in your reading may feel foreboding if you're resistant to change. During a period of difficulty, if you visualize a literal wheel in your mind's eye, you may see yourself holding onto spokes near the ground. Don't despair. The wheel keeps turning. Hold on, and eventually you'll find yourself sitting high above where you are now. The Wheel of Fortune asks you to reflect on recent ups and downs in the context of the turns of fate's wheel throughout your life. You will weather rough times better if you can take comfort in unexpected changes that were ultimately to your benefit. How can you better navigate the twists and turns in your life? What forces are working with you or against you? Realistically, what aspects of your life do you have a hand in creating, and what must you accept is a matter of destiny? All right, so if you made it to the end of that, let me know in the comments. Raise your hand. And I guess that last paragraph really did make it more of like a bit of an oracle message. Yeah, well, she had definitely lots of ups and downs in her life, that is for sure. All right, so guys, I hope that you appreciated and enjoyed this reading and got something helpful out of it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Hello, and welcome to everyone who chose option number 2, the Page of Cups, represented by Dorothea Dix. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And now if you want to stay to the end, after the actual reading is done, where we're looking at projections, I'm going to read the portion from the book, because this book has like a biography of each of the women featured on their cards, just in case there's any further information for you, or if you're just curious. If you also just want to see all of the cards in this deck, Our Tarot deck, I'll link below to a walkthrough that I did of the deck where you can see all of the cards. It is an interesting deck for sure. So first we're going to be asking about your projections onto your person of interest. Are you projecting anything? If so, what is it, and what's the actual truth beyond the projection? So first of all, are you projecting anything onto your person of interest? Let's see what Spirit has to say about that. Is the viewer of 2 projecting anything onto their person of interest? And I'm reading these based on uprights, so mostly uprights represents a yes, and mostly reversals would represent a no. So here we have the Temperance upright, 9 of Wands reversed, and 5 of Wands upright. So I feel like, yes, you are projecting something onto this person. I feel that, I think that you view this person as very spiritually wise, but what you're projecting is that you're not realizing the degree of struggle that they've gone through to get to that wisdom. They weren't just born with that wisdom. They had to go through a lot of ups and downs. They had to make a lot of mistakes along the way. They weren't just born with like this goody two shoes, like holier than thou. You know, they had to work for whatever you're seeing as like spiritual maturity in them. They worked hard to get there. What else? Any other projections? So it's not like a horrible projection. You're just, you just are not recognizing how they got to where they are. I think that you are seeing something beautiful in them, but just not entirely the journey of how they got there. What else are you projecting? I think that you also are projecting on, this is a very attractive person. This person, the Empress and the Queen of Wands, this is someone who attracts a lot of attention, and I think that what you're projecting onto them is what? Something, Hangman reversed. Maybe you think this person is unaware of how much they attract people, like they are attracting a lot of attention. Lots of people find them sexy and beautiful, or good looking, handsome, but you may think that this person doesn't see that, how attractive they are to people. Let's see, Spirit, what is the truth? What's the non-projection version of this? What's the truth of this person? Yes, this person actually does believe themselves to be beautiful. They do know that they are a very attractive person. They feel very empowered in their beauty or attractiveness. So yeah, I mean, they do they totally see themselves clearly? No. Just like anyone else, they're only seeing a reflection of themselves. I mean, we see ourselves how? By looking through mirrors, both literal and metaphorical mirrors. So is she, when she looks in this pool of water, is she seeing herself exactly as she is? No, but she sees it's a pretty good likeness of how she is. So if you think this person doesn't really see how beautiful or handsome or attractive they are, then actually they do. And yeah, and they're even, this is even someone who's willing to use that to their advantage in certain ways. This is no fool. This person is no fool, Spirit is saying. Yeah, they absolutely know that they attract a lot of attention. I think that what you're not seeing is that sometimes you think, well, why aren't they, if they sense that someone's attracted to them, why aren't they going down that pathway with that person? I think it's because they don't want to, either because they're not ready to, or they're not interested in that person, or they don't know which path they want to walk down. But it's not for a lack of knowing that they're attractive. I also feel like this is someone who prefers someone to come to them. So I see them being more represented by the moon here. And this person is just waiting for someone to come to them. But it feels like these people that are attracted to this person have a hard time finding their way to the person that you're asking about. Like it's a treacherous journey to get to this person. This person is hard to reach. They're hard to obtain. And maybe that's part of the power of why they're so alluring to so many people, is that they are sort of out of reach in some way. Okay, anything else that you're projecting onto this person that would be helpful to know? I think some of you think that some of you think that this person wants to get rid of you, or like wants to toss you aside, or that they're just always looking for the next and the better option, that they're never satisfied. That's what it is with this Justice card. It's almost like you may think that it doesn't matter who comes into this person's life, this person will just never be satisfied. I think if you think that, that's your own fear that's making you feel that way. It's a fear maybe that you have in yourself of maybe not being worthy of love or something, or just not being good enough for them. I do think that you're correct that this person is selective, but I don't think it's just that they'll never be satisfied. Spirit, tell us, what is the truth? So this is the projection, but what's the truth about this person? This is someone who's very serious about relationships, and they don't want to get invested in something until they really know for sure. And they do have a lot of options because this person is very loving and they have a lot of love to give. So that's another reason why they're attracting a lot of attention. And I think that in their past, with the Six of Cups reversed, in their past they have made some wrong choices. And again, that just causes them to be very selective and sort of hesitant about combining their energy with someone else's energy. They just want to make sure it's the right person before they really settle in and buckle down. And then when they do, they're going to be very serious about it. They're going to be willing to be very dedicated to a partnership once they've decided to be in one. But to get them to that point of being in a partnership might be very difficult. Okay. All right, so those are some things that you might be projecting onto them. Is this person projecting anything onto you? Or did we already do that part? Anyway, I hope not. If not, I guess we'll get a double dose. Okay, is this person that you're watching this for, are they projecting anything onto you? Yes. I think that they are projecting that sometimes the way that you communicate is immature or childish, or that you maybe you're just not very mature in the way that you express yourself. Yeah, this person feels that you don't know how to successfully communicate yourself. Okay, so what's the truth, Spirit? The truth is that you also are no fool, and if you are communicating something, then it's exactly what you meant to communicate. And it could just be that this person can't handle what you're communicating. Okay. Yeah, I think that you are very honest, and whatever you've communicated is, like I said, it was very strategically said. It was said in exactly the way that you wanted it to be said. It conveyed exactly the message that you wanted it to convey, and that's it. You know, you were expressing yourself actually very well. It's probably that this person did not like what you expressed, and so to them they're viewing it as childish, or like that you're just not good at communicating yourself. But in fact, you're very you're an expert communicator. All right. Anything else that this person is projecting upon the viewer of number 2? We get Knight of Cups, the Hermit, and the Seven of Pentacles. What are they projecting onto you? They might feel that you are dating a lot. If you notice here on this card, he has multiple dates listed. And this is the Knight of Cups. The Knight of Cups is a little bit of a player. They might feel like you're dating or involved with so many people that you can't even keep up with who am I supposed to be with today, or, you know, who was I with yesterday? It's almost like you can't even keep up with it. Like your dating life is so active. But they feel that this person feels that despite that, you're still kind of alone. It's like you haven't really found that person, and maybe the reason that you're dating a lot of people or talking to a lot of people or whatever is because you want to feel this, that you don't want to be alone. And this person feels like maybe you still haven't found the one, but you desperately want to find the one. But also this person feels like you would actually be happier being single, maybe, or that there's some value, there's something about being single that maybe you're not enjoying it. Okay, so that's this person's projection. What's the reality? 3 of Pentacles. 4 of Pentacles reversed. So I think the reality is similar. I think that you are looking for the right person, and you want someone who you're going to have harmony with, and that it's really going to work in a more substantial way. These are all pentacles, so I think when it comes to your dating life, you are looking for something serious. You're not really wanting to like fool around or like, you know, just date around with multiple people. So what are they getting wrong? I think that it's not like you're lonely and you're desperate to feel some sort of lonely void. I think that's what they mostly have wrong. And you're not really seeing a whole lot of people the way this person imagines or projects you to be. You're more serious about it. You are also very selective, and you're looking for the right person. But the thing is, the truth is, you're not wanting to settle down immediately. You're not ready to settle down in a super serious way. Although you do want to find someone that there's that potential with. Yeah. So I think that the main issue, the main difference, I guess, is that they think that you are kind of trying to fill the void of loneliness, that you're afraid of being alone. But I don't think that you are. You're just being selective. And you're not really involved with as many people as this person is projecting you to be. Okay. All right. Any other projections that the viewer needs to know that this person has towards the viewer? projections this person has towards the viewer. We have Queen of Swords. So no, that was pretty much it. I think this person like halfway sees. You can see like one of her eyes is closed and one of them is open. This person halfway sees the truth of you. They have you about halfway figured out, but like half of it is also projections. I think some of this person's projections towards you come from... They're a very independent person themselves. The Queen of Swords and the Queen of Wands are both independent, and it causes them maybe to doubt who they should be with. Maybe this is actually both of you. Maybe both of you are kind of like this, and they do see that about you, that you're very independent, and because you're very independent, it makes your romantic life more difficult in some way. It makes it more difficult to choose the right person that it's really going to work. Any guidance for this connection? We get the Two of Wands. I feel like this is something where, you know, the Two of Wands symbolizes there's been a meeting. You and this person have come together in some way. Your energies have collided, and there was a magnetic attraction. But now, how do you take it beyond just that momentary meeting? Because I feel like even when you all met, you both had other things going on in your lives. Like I'm looking at this guy and this man, he's got something going on, but here this woman is crossing his path. Or this man is crossing his path, depending on, you know, who he's interested in. But, you know, but also like this woman, she's on her own journey. She's headed in a certain way. She's, you know, wanting to get there. But I think that both of you already had something going on in your lives before you met. And so you met each other, there was this attraction, and the two of you are kind of trying to make that work or figure it out. But it's also like you both already had these goals that you had in mind. And so how do you continue to work towards the goals that you already had in mind before you came along each other's paths, and also still pursue this life together? And your guides are saying at some level it just requires surrender. You kind of have to surrender to the circumstances. You can't control everything. But there is love here, and they just want to remind you of that. So it's not guidance exactly about what to do or anything. It's just maybe your guides want to give you a different perspective on the situation. All right, so for those of you who want to stick around and hear who Dorothea Dix is, I will be reading from the book. If not, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you got some helpful information out of it. So let's see who this lady was. Oof. All right. Dorothea Dix was born to alcoholic parents who created a troubled environment to grow up in. Her father, a preacher, was often absent, and when he was present, he was abusive. At the age of 12, she went to live with her wealthy grandmother in Boston, where she enjoyed more stability, although she was frequently ill with a severe cough and fatigue. Perhaps her own struggles, suggests medical historian Manon S. Perry, helped make her a more compassionate advocate for people who had been diagnosed as mentally unstable or insane. She had limited schooling while she lived with her parents, but she established an elementary school in her grandmother's home in 1821 when she was only 19. Initially, the school served children from affluent families. Not long after this, though, she began teaching children from poor families as well. In 1824, she published a book of facts for school teachers titled Conversations on Common Things, which was written as an imagined conversation between a mother and daughter. In 1831, she opened a secondary school. Her workload exacerbated her poor health, however, And in 1836, her doctor recommended she close her schools for good and travel to Europe to restore her vitality. Her grandmother's wealth had enabled her to associate with some of Boston's influential thinkers, such as writer and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, who helped arrange Dorothea's trip. She traveled to England, where she met reformers who inspired her with their beliefs in equal treatment for people from all walks of life. She stayed in the home of politician and reformer William Rathbone, who introduced her to prison reformer Elizabeth Fry, and Samuel Tuke, who had founded a retreat for people suffering from mental illness. Dorothea returned to the United States over a year later with a vested interest in more effective, humane approaches toward treating the mentally ill. In 1837, her grandmother died, leaving her an inheritance that enabled Dorothea to support herself upon her return to Boston. She took a teaching job at a prison in Boston and observed its horrors. Mentally ill people, lumped together under the moniker of insane, regardless of symptoms that often weren't uniformly shared, were kept in close quarters with people who had been convicted of violent crimes. Living conditions within these prisons and asylums were filthy, dangerous, and unhygienic. Because of the neglectful environment, these vulnerable populations were often subjected to abuse and exploitation. Dorothea visited as many of these facilities as she could, then presented her findings to the Massachusetts legislature. In her 1843 report, she proclaimed, "I proceed, gentlemen, briefly to call your attention to the present state of insane persons confined within this commonwealth, in cages, stalls, pens, chained, naked, beaten with rods, and lashed into obedience." Her advocacy sparked a significant movement to reform prisons and asylums. Dorothea traveled the country, accomplishing similar goals and inspiring health and social reform legislation in other states, as well as in Canada and Europe. She worked as a superintendent of women nurses during the American Civil War, too. She was the first woman to hold this position. However, her strong personality often clashed with Army officials and even other nurses, and she was fired from that role toward the end of 1863. This didn't stop her, though. Dorothea continued her reform and advocacy work for the rest of her days. After the war, she worked to evaluate the damage and resulting needs of prisons and asylums in the American South. In 1881, she moved into a hospital in New Jersey that she had established herself. Her health was deteriorating, but she kept up her work by corresponding with reformers around the world until her death. Dorothea Dix used what means were available to her to draw attention to the cruel treatment of the mentally ill and to create change. While she adhered to the idealized archetype of a 19th century woman by being a nurturer and a moral authority, she also subverted it by exposing herself and others to graphic suffering. The Page of Cups represents someone who has an opportunity to undergo an emotional transformation. If that person is you, then you may need to take steps into places that are frightening. Be open and inquisitive about what's ahead of you. If you don't know yet what your opportunity is, listen to the people around you, taking note of their ideas and problems. Listen to your feelings as well. The Page of Cups is an affirmation that your emotional intuition is strong. What problems or obstacles do you face currently? What can you do right now to progress out of that situation? How can you use your experience as an opportunity to assist others? All right, so if you stick around through the biographical section of that reading, let me know in the comments. I thought that was an interesting life story. All right, so guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Welcome to everyone who chose option number 3, the Eight of Swords, Georgiana Spencer Cavendish. So we're going to look into the original question, but then at the end of it, if you want, I'm going to read from this, the guidebook that goes with this deck, and read a little bit more about Georgiana Spencer Cavendish. If you just want to stick around for that, it's just something extra I'm putting at the end. You don't have to, of course. All right, so first we're going to be asking about you, and are you projecting anything onto your person of interest? So first we'll look at you. Okay. Is the viewer of number 3 projecting anything onto their person of interest? Are they projecting onto their person of interest? Yes, you are projecting onto them. I think that you're projecting them to be a much stronger and more stable person than they are, which is not to say that they're not strong or that they're not stable, but your projection is very different from the truth. You might also see this person as someone who's always making good choices, but I don't think that's the case. So what is the truth here? What is the truth here? I think that the truth is that this person can handle a lot. You know, they can persevere through quite a bit, and I think that they are someone who always looks for the lesson in things. It's someone who is very interested in continuing to grow, but they're not really as strong of an individual as you think. They're still growing. They're not quite there. So wherever you project them to be, they're on their way. They're well on their way to getting to what you perceive them to be, but they're not quite there yet. And you think that maybe they're very stable and that they've got everything all together, but this person actually encounters a lot more drama and chaos in their life than what you realize. And they do not always rest easy at night because of it. Anything else to say about that? I think that this person is not afraid of being vengeful. That may not be a way that you see them, but the truth is they don't like to be that way, but they're certainly capable of it. They can definitely outsmart people who are behaving poorly towards them, and they're willing to confront that, and sometimes they're willing to get their boots dirty in the process. But yeah, they do prefer not to get involved in that type of thing, but they will if they have to. They're definitely not above it. And I also think that this person is not very trusting. So maybe you think that they're a very trusting person as well, that they don't doubt people, but this person actually doubts people a lot. I think they're actually incredibly distrusting of people. Okay, anything else that you are projecting onto them? Anything else that you're projecting onto them? Yes, you really, I think it's just a repetitive, like you really think that this person totally has their act together. Or maybe you think that they've come to the end of their journey and this is as far as they're going to go. That this person has come to an end point of success and that they have no interest in growing further. But this, I mean, we already got kind of an indication of this. This is someone who's always interested in greater growth and progress. So they have not reached, if you're thinking this person has climbed what amounts to a mountain and now they're just going to rest at the top of that mountain. No, this is someone who wants to keep climbing mountains and keep climbing mountains. They will always want to progress further, to learn more, to accomplish more. So they're an incredibly ambitious person. And if you just think that this person has it made in life, then I think that Spirit is saying you're projecting that as well. Because this person actually has a significant difficulty really being happy. Even though they have accomplished a lot, they don't just sit around and like pat themselves on the back and are like, oh my goodness, what a joy that I've achieved this. They're actually, you know, like if you could see inside their head and their thoughts had a face, it would be like this guy strapped to a rock with this, I don't know what this is, coming down, swing this sword-like pendulum, and these mice. Like that's more how this person perceives their life. And you just think like they're like this. They're like, I'm sitting in a good, stable place. I've got my shit together. But no, I mean, inwardly, they really struggle against thoughts of suffering. They feel that life is very difficult at times. Sometimes it's really hard for them to see the way forward and understand why life is what it is. Yeah, so you may think this person just has this rosy, wonderful life, and at least, and it may be a wonderful life, but they don't necessarily see it that way themselves. They struggle to be happy. Okay, let's just see one more time. Anything else you might be projecting onto your person? Nope, that pretty much covered it. I mean, this person is just definitely a go-getter, and they are not one to rest on their laurels. So you may be looking at it and thinking like, wow, they've accomplished so much, they should just take a rest, take it easy, and recognize that they have gotten to just a wonderful place. But this just is not the type of person to do that. They're always thinking about what's next, what can I go after next, what can I accomplish next. All right. So what about them? Are they projecting anything onto you? Are they projecting anything onto you? Is this person projecting anything onto you? No. I think that they are not projecting anything onto you. They see you as someone who has a difficult time choosing where to plant your seeds. In other words, a difficult time choosing, okay, which goal should I really work on? Which goal is the best? You have a difficult time choosing. And I feel like this person feels that a lot of times you're running away from your demons instead of facing them. And that in and of itself might sort of keep you from being able to kind of put down roots, so to speak. Let me see if there's a better way of saying this. I feel like this person feels like you have the potential of being incredibly successful, but they feel that you're not taking advantage of that potential because you're afraid of facing your own demons or facing your own fears, or with the Page of Wands, maybe you're just afraid of new experiences in some way. Yeah, they view you as being incredibly capable. And remember, this is not a projection, so this is true. You have all of this potential, and I think they also view you as someone who has a difficult time accepting other people's insights. So it might be difficult for you to hear that someone views you as not living up to your full potential. There might be a part of you that feels very reactionary towards that and like, no, that's wrong. I know what's best for me. I don't have any trouble deciding. And your guides are saying this is not an attack on your self-esteem or your like value or your quality as a person. It's just that this person feels like there's so much potential that you are, for some reason, choosing not to tap into. That's all that it is. It's actually, they're actually seeing you very highly. They're seeing you as someone with so much to offer. But in order to offer that, you have to choose to pursue it. You have to choose to pursue some sort of path in order to fulfill that potential. And so that's all that they're seeing. It's like, like what if you had some sort of latent ability to be an excellent diver, but every time you get on the diving board, you go to the end and then you look down for a while and then you back away and you climb back down the ladder and you decide not to jump in. This person is like, yeah, but you could be like an Olympic medalist in this. They're seeing so much potential in you. So it's actually very positive. This person is actually esteeming you very highly. All right, so what's Spirit's guidance? Just to wrap it up, what is Spirit's guidance about this connection? We get the Devil reversed. I feel that there are issues of codependency here that need to be addressed. And I think that you would be in a place of greater peace here if you would maybe let go of your attachment to this person. And kind of focus on your own journey. There may be a part of you, because you are seeing them as very successful and that they should just rest on their laurels or whatever. There might be a part of you that is kind of wanting what they have, but you can't obtain that through taking it from this person. You have to get that through acquiring it on your own, which requires, facing your fears, as we've already mentioned, going ahead and jumping off of that diving board. Now, the card that you chose also, the Eight of Swords, is a card indicating someone who has perceived limitations in their head. It can be someone who has a little bit of a victim mentality, which I think is something that we all go through. So anyway, so if you want to stick around for the biographical portion of this reading, I am going to read about her from the book. And if not, I hope you got something helpful out of this. Please don't leave mean comments below, because I don't like that, and it's not necessary. If you didn't like the reading, you don't have to like the reading. All right, so let's get into this. Over here. Okay. All right, born Georgina Spencer, G, as she was called by those close to her, was raised to make a brilliant marital match. Let me make sure this is, I think it is focused. Her father was John Spencer, 1st Earl Spencer, one of the richest men in England at the time. She was also the great-great-great-granddaughter of Diana, Princess of Wales. Oh, great-great-great-grand-aunt, sorry, of Diana, Princess of Wales. Both Georgiana and Diana grew up at Althorpe, the large estate that still belongs to the Spencer family today, and Diana is buried there on a small island in the middle of an ornamental lake. Family lines were not their only similarities, as Norman A. Bergman writes in Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire, and Princess Diana, a parallel. Both used their social position and the widespread interest with their lives to try to influence public affairs. Both attempted to leave the world a better place for their having been there. In 1774, on her 17th birthday, Georgiana married William Cavendish, 5th Duke of Devonshire. William was stoic, like Georgiana's father, but unfortunately lacked his father-in-law's kindness and sensitivity. While an excellent pairing on a societal level, they were very different. William was quiet, sometimes severe in his mode of expression, while Georgiana was gregarious and emotionally transparent. The tension in the relationship increased when Georgiana found it difficult to become pregnant. She suffered at least 2 miscarriages by the time she was 19. William believed his wife's sole purpose was to provide him with a son to be the next Duke of Devonshire, and she was failing. To ease her emotional turmoil, Georgiana threw herself into the worlds of fashion and politics and became thoroughly enveloped in them by the end of the 1770s. Her parents had been ardent supporters of the Whigs, then a progressive political party that wanted to restrict the absolute power of monarchs. Georgiana, dressed in unique gowns and her hair adorned with accessories that soon became sought-after trends, took to hosting lavish parties and events for prominent Whig politicians and their supporters. Devonshire House became the hub of the Whig Party's activities. These were raucous events, and attendees often drank excessively and gambled, including Georgiana, who may have inherited the penchant for the latter from her parents. She became a celebrity due to her beauty, rank, and cutting-edge style. Newspapers printed countless stories detailing what Georgiana was wearing, doing, and which Whig politicians she was supporting. In 1782, hoping that the sea air would improve her fertility, she traveled to Bath. There, the Duchess met and befriended Lady Elizabeth Foster, who was estranged from her husband and sons. They developed a close bond, and Georgiana invited Elizabeth to stay with her and the Duke. Elizabeth became a close confidant to them both. When she became William's mistress, she also became a permanent resident of the Devonshire household. Despite the affair between Elizabeth and the Duke, Georgiana had 3 children over a period of 7 years, daughters Georgiana and Harriet, and a son, William. Georgiana also helped to raise Charlotte Williams, the Duke's illegitimate daughter, with a working-class woman also named Charlotte, with whom he had a brief affair. As the years passed, Georgiana became addicted to gambling and secretly amassed many debts. In 1776, her parents forced her to confess her debts to her husband, although she continued her gambling habit. She went to great lengths to avoid informing him, even asking her friend, the Prince of Wales, the future George IV, for a loan. In 1783, the Duke's financial agent, John Heaton, revealed that she had amassed debts equal to approximately £400,000, about $485,000 today. Given that he was among the richest men in England, William was forgiving. He simply paid off her debts and repaid her loans. That she frequently got herself mired in financial trouble caused her no small amount of emotional distress. According to biographer Amanda Foreman in Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire, Georgiana wrote to her mother of her desire to escape her life entirely. The kind of castles I build, and which I chiefly build when I have an uneasy thought I want to get rid of, is fancying myself in 1,000 different situations, but almost always different from what I could really be in. Georgiana fell in love with a handsome politician, Charles Grey, whom she met sometime in the late 1780s as a result of her political activities. In 1791, she discovered she was pregnant with his child. She confessed this to William, who presented her with an ultimatum: end the affair with Grey and give up the baby, or go with Grey and never see her 3 children again. Although he was already engaged to another woman, Grey was angry when Georgiana chose to stay with her children. She went into exile in, I don't know how you say that, something on Provence, France, and gave birth to a 3rd daughter, Eliza Courtenay. Eliza was raised by her paternal grandparents, and Georgiana found ways to visit her regularly. It is likely that Eliza knew from a young age that Georgiana was her mother, though it was never openly acknowledged. After giving up Eliza and returning to Devonshire House to her 3 older children, Georgiana's life quieted down. William was suffering from gout, and Georgiana spent a great deal of time nursing him. When her eldest child, Georgiana, made her debut in society, the elder Georgiana resumed some of her social life again, even becoming a close confidant of the Prince of Wales. Her health had declined, however, and she suffered a severe eye infection that blinded her in her left eye. In 1806, a few months before her 49th birthday, Georgiana died from a disease of the liver. Her death was widely mourned, and her family, including her husband and his mistress, were said to be inconsolable. Years after Georgiana's death, Elizabeth wore a mourning pendant containing a lock of Georgiana's hair. Georgiana Spencer Cavendish, Duchess of Devonshire, found herself caught up in circumstances beyond her control, her unhappy marriage, and of her individual creation, her mounting debts. Her inner turmoil drove her to seek multiple avenues for escape, none of which resulted in positive change. The 8 of Swords denotes a situation in which you feel trapped, You may feel overwhelmed and confused about how you came to feel so restricted. But this card's presence in your reading indicates that this restriction may be of your own design, at least in part. The Eight of Swords conveys that there may be a way out that you haven't yet considered, perhaps in the form of adjusting your own habits and seeking help for self-sabotaging behavior. How can you untangle yourself from a negative situation? Are there people in your life you can trust with the secrets that are causing you shame? Is there a different, more self-empowering perspective on your circumstances that you have yet to consider? So yeah, in part, it does kind of make sense for what we're picking up here in the reading. So anyway, if you made it to the end, and if you don't hate me, then let me know in the comments below. All right, so anyways, I hope that you got something helpful out of this. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. All right, welcome to everyone who chose number 4, which is the Four of Swords. Hilma Af Klint. I don't know why. Is it of or af? Anyway, after the reading part, I am going to read her biography from the book that comes with this deck, if you want to stick around for that. And so I have no idea who this is or why her name is like that. But we shall find out if you want to stick around. If not, let's go ahead and get into it. So first, we're going to be asking if you, the viewer of 4, are projecting anything onto your person of interest. Is the viewer of 4 projecting anything onto their person? No. You're not really projecting. So what you believe to be true about them is pretty much the reality. That doesn't mean that there aren't still things that you don't know, but what you do believe is true. And I think that you're viewing this person as fairly uncomplicated, easy to like, someone who enjoys the simple things in life or just wants the simple things. The simple things in life are more important to them. I think that this person, they just like sweet, simple interactions with people. They don't like there to be a lot of complication. They probably prefer like small groups or like one-on-one social interactions versus having a lot of people around. If you're thinking that this person has not achieved their full financial potential, then you're accurate there as well, because this person is definitely trying to achieve more financial wealth for themselves. And I think they're just kind of like at the beginning of what they will eventually accomplish. They definitely have a lot of potential to gain a lot of wealth for themselves. If you believe that this person is not quite over someone from their past, or if you feel that they have had a difficult time getting over someone from their past, then you're correct. They have had a difficult time getting over someone from the past, and they still have fond feelings for that person as well. Anything else you need to know about that? Any of this that you don't already know? This is someone who pursues love. They don't pursue, they're not looking for, I kind of got this message before with the Six of Cups, because you see like there's a castle far in the background, but that's not what's interesting to this person. This person just wants to be treated sweetly. And again, I think love and like an emotional connection to this person is what will lead them to pursue a future romantically with someone. It's not about securing any sort of financial safety. They just want to be loved and treated very sweetly. That's what this person wants. Okay. So anything else that you should know here? Nope, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the majority of what Spirit wants you to understand. But I think they do want you to know, like, yes, this person has, they still have kind feelings for this person from their past. Maybe they haven't entirely mourned it completely, like we already said with that grief card, the Five of Cups. The Three of Swords, kind of reinforces that there's still something that they haven't come to a complete place of peace with someone from their past, and that is making it maybe harder for them to open up to you now or to anyone else now. I don't think that they want to be involved with that person anymore. They don't really see a future with that person or want a future with them anymore. But there is something that's unresolved there. And I think that you might actually be more aware of that than even this person is. Whatever that is. So you're actually like seeing them more clearly in terms of someone that they still aren't quite over. You're seeing it more clearly than they are. So whatever you know to be true about that situation, you have it figured out more than they do. Okay. So what about them? Do they have any projections onto you? Are they projecting anything onto you? Is this person projecting anything onto you? It's a very strong no. So again, they're whatever they see about you, whatever they're perceiving about you, it is accurate. It's not a projection. It is the truth. And so let me turn these around and we'll see. They see you as being someone who is very spiritual. I feel like they see you as someone who wants to have conversations or engage or read or learn more about spirituality and spiritual growth, how to be more balanced in life as well, like moderation. They see you as someone who's trying to achieve moderation in life. Also, someone who kind of wants to break free. You want to free yourself, maybe to use spirituality as a means of freeing yourself and finding happiness. They feel that you're someone who is seeking greater happiness. So I guess neither of you are really, I think the answer for both was that you're not projecting, right? I think that that's the answer that we got. So you're both seeing each other fairly clearly. Is there anything that this person doesn't know about you, that they just don't have any perception about because they just don't know about it? No. I mean, obviously they can't know everything about you, but they do know that you're someone who, you're looking at all of your possibilities. This could be your romantic possibilities or just possibilities of how you could proceed with your life, but you're definitely looking at all of the potential possibilities of how to move forward right now in life, because you're you're trying to be very strategic. You want to choose the plan in your life right now that will be to the greatest benefit. And I think also you're keeping some of your cards close to your chest. You're not revealing everything about these different options that you're looking at, but this person does pick up on that in some way. That they know that even though you may not be revealing it, they kind of get a sense of it, intuitively or otherwise, that you're looking at a lot of different options and that you're not telling everyone about what all of those options are. But you're definitely trying to achieve some sort of greater level of stability or status or achievement for yourself here with this Emperor card. And your means of doing that is right now to explore all of your options. So that's just something else that they're aware of about you. So it looks like the two of you are actually pretty keyed into each other and understand each other pretty well. All right. Anything that you just need to know about this connection? I think that if either of you are, and it looks like you're exploring some sort of option, whether that's romantic or something else, but I feel like with this Knight of Cups, if either of you are looking at more than one romantic option right now, it seems like it comes from a place of whoever's doing that, or maybe you're both doing that. It comes from a place of not really recognizing your true value. So people are still shopping around, trying to find the best buy, sort of. It's like if you go to the store and you think you have a certain budget. In this case, one or both of you is thinking of your own personal value as the budget. I can only afford a certain romantic partner based on how valuable I am as a person. But it feels like you need to be making your romantic choices not based on that, but based on like who do you actually love the most and who loves you the most, rather than it being about like I can only afford a person of a certain type of value or something like that. And so one or both of you could sort of be downplaying your own value here. Yeah, but I think that you both are very smart. You're very astute and observant. So yeah, I mean, I think Spirit is just saying again, the two of you do have a very keen insight into the other person. You both really do. Okay. So I hope that that was helpful. Your all's reading ended up being much quicker in terms of that because there weren't a lot of projections being made. So that's positive. It means that you're seeing each other pretty clearly. Okay. Four of Swords. Let's go ahead and read this card. If you want to stick around for this part, of course you don't have to, but the last paragraph of these readings does give kind of like a greater oracle message, or it has seemed like that so far. So we have to get through the historical stuff first before we get to that, but anyway. All right, let's see how long hers is. Okay, it's like 3 pages. So when we get to this last paragraph, it kind of interprets the card more in respect to her life. Okay, let's see. Hilma F. Clint. Okay. In the latter part of the 19th century, people all over Europe and in North America became increasingly fascinated with spiritualist movements and occult ideas. The Industrial Revolution, scientific advancement, and inventions like the phonograph and the telephone were rapidly changing everyday life, and people were attempting to reconcile centuries-old religious beliefs with newfound knowledge. As a student of the Royal Academy of Stockholm during that time, artist Hilma F. Klint was no exception, as she often participated in group seances attempting to communicate with a spiritual entity or the dead. As art critic Ben Davis observes in his 2018 article for the website ArtNet, the emergence of the 19th century spiritualist movement was created by people who believed in the authority of scientific knowledge, but still felt that the emergent modern world left a hole to be filled in terms of purpose or meaning. Hilma's intense interest in spiritualism began to develop in 1880, when her 10-year-old sister, Ermina, died. It was soon after this loss that she started attending seances regularly, hoping to communicate with Hermina. In 1887, upon graduation from the Royal Academy, she was granted a studio space where she created realistic works, serene landscapes, and commissioned portraits. Still deeply intrigued with the metaphysical and spiritual, she joined the Theosophical Society in 1889. The Theosophists were a group dedicated to occultist Helena Blavatsky's teachings, which drew from multiple religious systems worldwide, from Greek philosophy to Hinduism. Hilma and 4 female artist friends formed a spiritualist contingent of their own in 1896. They called themselves both the Friday Group and the Five, as they met every Friday and were 5 in number. Together, they explored different metaphysical and supernatural ideas through discussion and practice, analyzing the New Testament, meditating, and praying. Through seances and automatic writing and drawing, these women contacted a pantheon of spiritual beings that they named the High Ones. In 1904, during a seance, Hilma felt that one of the High Ones, a spirit named Amaliel, was directing her to create a series of paintings that dealt with her mystical explorations. In 1906, at 44, she began the expansive series Paintings for the Temple, which were unlike anything she had yet painted. They were non-figurative, incorporating geometric and organic shapes and an intense array of colors that evoked a sense of wonder rather than representing a particular place or person. She worked on the series through 1915, creating 193 paintings in all. In an online biographical statement about Hilma af Klint, the Hilma F. Klint Foundation asserts, "Paintings for the Temple is one of the very first pieces of abstract art in the Western world, as it predates with several years the first non-figurative compositions of her contemporaries in Europe. There is no evidence that Hilma was involved in the abstract movement of her male contemporary colleagues, nor that she participated in the development of early modernism in Central and Western Europe. In fact, she did not intend to exhibit her works. According to the Hilma Foundation website, she had received instructions from her spiritual guides that the world was not ready to see her paintings." Esoteric philosopher Rudolf Steiner, who met with Hilma in 1908, told her to wait at least 50 years before exhibiting the work. Her interest in religious studies was reflected in another body of work, Series 2, beginning with a painting called Starting Picture, which featured a single painted circle of equal halves, black and white. The following works in the series are similarly painted circles that are divided into various amounts of white and black, with titles like Buddha's Standpoint in Worldly Life and The Jewish Standpoint at the Birth of Jesus. When Hilma died in 1944 at the age of 82, her will revealed that her works, an estimated 1,300 non-figurative paintings and 125 sketchbooks and notebooks, could not be exhibited for 20 years. Her art remained unknown to the world at large until 1988, when her work was presented at the Nordic Association for Art Historians Conference. The 2000s and 2010s saw a renewed interest in her paintings and supernaturally guided method of creating, resulting in her work being featured in exhibitions internationally. In 2018, the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum mounted the exhibition Hilma af Klint, Paintings for the Future. Hilma embarked on a spiritual journey in the midst of a successful art career that changed her life forever. Although her practices were influenced by the cultural movements of the day, the works inspired by her explorations were an expression of her unique inner life as an individual. The Four of Swords is a card that signifies a need for introspection, for quiet contemplation. Its appearance in your reading suggests that you need to step back from your daily routine and all the things you're used to doing and creating. Does the path you are on feel right to you, or do you feel you need a change? Evaluate your path so far. Take time to rest and think about what you find interesting. This card's appearance in your reading might also suggest you've recently experienced a stressful period or that you're grieving a loss. If so, you need to take time to alleviate your stress or grief. The Four of Swords requests you keep in mind these questions. What can you do to relax and rejuvenate? What ideas, however far out they may be, draw your attention? How can you create a sense of tranquility so that you're open to whatever ideas the universe brings to you? All right, thanks for sticking around, guys. If you did stick around, let me know. And either way, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.